we will move on now to our next session, which is jumping into the world of change management in a digital era. So how can you really, it's really difficult, you'll agree, to really manage these overwhelming processes of change, certainly in a digital area. It's constantly changing, constantly moving, and the benchmarks are moving as well. So kind of making sense of that and monitoring that and managing that is really difficult. The gentleman next who's going to share with us right now his perspective hopefully will help us make sense of that in a slightly better way. So please welcome to our virtual playground right now the CEO of TechNet World, Mr. Marko Kovacevic. Marko. Hi, Marko.
Good morning.
Good morning. We already met. You just popped in a little bit earlier on, which is cool. You kind of came in and then you popped out, and now it's time for you to come back and share your session. So listen, how are you this morning, by the way?
I'm well. I feel like a ghost in the digital world, right? You know, appearing and disappearing. That's the beauty of it. So
well, Marko, yeah, that's it. The man who pops in and out. That's your role here. But for now, you're staying with us. Don't pop away yet. Stay with us, share your session, and then go. Right. So I'm going to leave it up to you again towards the end. Questions from our listeners, and I'll come back and ask you those questions. So Marko, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here today. Good morning, everybody. I would first of all like to say really big congratulations for the HR World team. I think what you have built here is really something which significantly brought the value of human resources and people development within our region. Keep up doing great job and move the pendulum forward, because this is something which is valuable for everybody. On the other side, I would like to say that it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you today and to share what I have prepared related to direct correlation in between the change management on one side and on the other side digital world we all live in. So I'll try briefly to bring you through, the whole concept and share with you. This concept is very new. It has been created just recently in our collaboration with the Digital Supply Chain Institute from New York. And it's something we are testing with Fortune 50 companies in a sense of how you can do the change today in a different element. So I'll give you a sneak peek and I'll share with you all the important elements around it. And then I'll be very glad to answer any questions or hear any of your comments. So where we are today, like the change management needs to change as all the environment is changing around us. And I think that's inevitable. But what we found and what we created and designed as a tool is that multiplayer video games basically are bringing us towards the future, which can be made for the change management. Why, right? Just take a moment now to think about your organization and think about, things you are doing, and think about, your project or decision-making model which you have now. How do you communicate during your job? How do you communicate during your projects? How much do you trust your colleagues and your data? And also see, do you have all the data you need to make the right decision in the processes you lead? So what is the current situation? We all know that, the change is hard for individuals, even more for the organizations, that we have different generations and different cultures. And what does it mean is, especially today, we live in an era where we are really having a big shift with human resources from a traditional generations who are, not technically savvy, the generations who have been touching internet from the very beginning, but they are not native, and now native organizations where we have more and more people who are basically digital natives, who have lived with the technology from the beginning of their lives. So everything is now faster and more effective. Why? Because of the connectiveness, because of the digital world, because of the way of how customers' behaviors have changed. We now more than ever need to engage people's hearts and minds, and we also need to require different things from people to do. based on all the technology we are using. So common hurdles of transformations, we all know it, right? It's like, what will happen after we change? Is it another great initiative by the leadership? Do they think that we don't have anything else to do? What's in it for me? Will things change for me? Now, how these hurdles basically change in digital era, and especially what we have seen as amplification is during the time of pandemic, people are even busier than they were, especially in having connected calls all over the place. There are no breaks. Everything is, like focused on one line without, going up and down. Pace of change is rapid because the things around us are happening rapidly. There are so many businesses disappearing, so many new businesses coming along, and everybody now needs to transform more than ever because of the circumstances of economic environment around us. There's too much data, right? There's data everywhere and everybody's talking about it, but there are just a handful of people who understand what they can do with it. Generational shift, which I mentioned, people would like to go, and move into another arena, into arena of trust and support more than ever. So just a sneak peek on the evolution of change management and the video games, just to create that correlation now at the very beginning. So in 90s, as you see, it was creating urgency, it was empowerment, it was, mitigating the resistance. And that was the era of Pac-Man as a game, right? So when we moved towards the 2000s, it was all about process redesign. It was all about a compelling story of the organization and role modeling. And this was the time when, for instance, Super Mario, for those who remember, was the character, was the game which was, playing. And it was indirectly correlated if we try to connect the worlds. Then 2010, it was a rapid time, for the Bound project. It was engage heart and mind, going more towards winning hearts and minds of people. And then success ripple effects, right? You build things which you constantly repeat. And that was the time, like when Roblox started, right? And when Minecraft started, when Grand Theft Auto started. And going to today and tomorrow, right? It's all about dynamic leadership. It's all about network collaboration, interlinks in between people. And it was all data driven. And that's the time of, Fortnite, time of Roblox, right? Time of platforms which bring people together based on the things which I will share now. So what we see today as a connection in between the multiplayer video games and then, era of digital reality, it's like in business today, we need clear understanding of common goals. We need cross-functional collaboration. We need cross-cultural collaboration. We need to adopt quickly to the challenges we have. So where's the correlation with multiplayer video game squads, for instance? They also have a clear understanding, of their common goal. Their squads are organized, not based on hierarchy, but on skill, and they're flexible in creating the strategies. So seeing these things, as something which leads the way forward, right? So what are the lessons? So in this aspect, we have found and we created a model for 4 main elements. Element number 1 of change management in digital era is dynamic leadership. Element number 2 is rapid communication and decision making. Element number 3 is trust. And element number 4 is basically closely correlated to the way of how you filter your data. So let me deep dive into it to just give you insights about it. What we mean by dynamic leadership, it's basically the way of how you manage today. It's not the way that, you command from, top to bottom. It's the way that you create dynamic leadership based on the skill, where person in charge is the person who has the right skill at that moment to resolve the issue which is on the table. So that's how the teams are organized as well in the area of, playing the multiplayer video games. So there's no pure oversight role, right? There is a squad working together and then shifting dynamically through the skill. And leadership works because everyone in the squad has the same goal. That's what's basically the alignment. Then we go to rapid communication and decision making. What's unique about the squad system is that squad members, are constantly communicating in each other on the platform. There's no hidden agenda because there is the same goal going forward. And on the other side, why there is no hidden agenda is because we all have different skills which are contributing for our team to win. So the path to the goal is adjusted along the way. It's not just, my way or highway. It's basically building up. And the ultimate goal is broken up into milestones by the team. Usually what was coming before, it would be coming from an organization saying these are 5-7 milestones you need to follow in your change management. Now the squad can do that, and then they own it. Then we come to something which, I was writing a lot about, and I will be doing that more because I'm fascinated with the value of trust in general. And I think from my point of view, trust is a currency today. It's on a lowest levels, in last 20 years, but it's even more critical for everything we do. So these squads, they immediately have trust, no matter who is coming from where. So if we take an organization as an example, it doesn't matter from which department person comes. It doesn't matter who she's or his boss is, right? What matters is that there is the same goal, that she or he knows that the other colleagues within the squad came there because of their competencies, and they are after together towards the goal of transformation. So what digital era builds on us, it increases the visibility and transparency, right? So there's no way that you can play your own agenda the others cannot see, right? Trust is basically also based on the data which is shared there. And then in order to make the quick decisions, you pretty quickly see the results. So if you start failing because you have your agenda, then you break trust very quickly. So it's not a long process that at the end of the transformation we'll understand, but we'll see immediately. So that's why this way of approach builds trust and builds interdependencies, which are valuable in a sense of achieving the same goal. And then last but not the least is the way of how you're filtering your data, right? How you use the multiple sources. And data can be a friend, and it can be as well an enemy. And it's an enemy if you have an overload and you don't know in which direction you should be going. So that's why the squads are constantly following predefined areas which they pinpoint. And those are related to personal data elements, to squad data elements, to competition or basically task squad elements, which would be in business, and then the environment which they play, that would be the company or the organization. And if everybody follows the same dashboard and reads their predefined metrics, which they know and agreed as a team they're leading forward, everybody has the access towards the same thing and contribute with their skill. So ability to quickly make right decision is really amplified much better than before, rather than me seeing my data, my colleague seeing another data, and somebody else seeing the third data, and then I decide what I will share. Everything is there, and we cross compare once you focus on the area of basically importance in that sense. Sorry, I see now that the slides got stuck for me, but it will be shared with you afterwards. So what are the differences we see now? What is the connection which I shared, because I know it's a lot of information, from when we started and a really focused period of time, like in doing a change management in digital era. So some things, they remain true. You see them on the left-hand side. That's the urgency, that's time-bound goals needed, that's success of the pilots, that's compelling story. But what are the things we have to see now? That's dynamic delegated leadership. And I would underline delegated, right? Because it goes in between the team. So it's not that if I was the first one to take the lead, that I will take the lead until the end, but it will be delegated in between without me needing to do it personally. Then the communication is as well peer pressure communication, in a sense of if I don't communicate, the overall small squad will take the communication from me in a way, and I need to contribute. Then what is very important, each team is empowered. Why they are empowered? Because the things which are built in the team are built on the same goal, on transparency and trust, and on the competence. So empowerment comes as a natural thing from it, because we created an environment which can do that. And then it's all about correlating these things together and really making it work. So taking the next step and going to final conclusions, which I would like to leave you with as key lessons, let's say. So what's important to have now is to make a clear goal. Let the squad make the decision in how they reach the goal. So the company is making the goal, the squad is doing it how. That's a very important thing, because what it brings this way of the dynamic of change, where we get best from people to achieve maybe even things which we didn't envision at the very beginning. And we are unlocking and empowering talent to make the next step forward. We favor action over planning. In the previous concepts, it was all about planning, analysis, and just going back and forth in the circles. In today's world, we cannot wait for the perfect moment. We need to take the action. And that correlates with the next point. It's like learn as you go, right? That you can hear more and more about the concepts of celebrating the failure, which can be quick, so it doesn't make a big problem, and then where teams can pivot from there, but only if you support them to fail. If you don't support them to fail, nobody will be taking chances, because everybody would like to do what the boss would like to see. So this system as well gives you to learn as you go, and it gives you a component which everybody is talking about, but there are just as many who understand how they can build it. That's resilience. And resilience you build through experiences. You don't build it through a beautiful article in the magazine or a great book or a great course which you went to, but you basically, like in life, you build it with experience. Then it's provide good data that is trusted. Data brings trust. If we align that we look at the same components, we compare apples to apples, and then again, we take the pieces we all see from the same lens, but understand with a different skill, we win together. If I have more data and you have less data, and our third colleague, doesn't have data at all, we won't be able to cross collaborate. And then the level of trust will go down. And one of the components here, which is connecting all the dots, is trust. And that's the currency of future change management in a way. And then maintain and open the transparent communication channels. Transparency and communication is very important. Today, we have a lot of communication going through digital channels. We have communication going through emails, going through chats, going through intercompany, channels of communication. We have telephones, Zooms, all of these other things. But there is so much noise now. On the multiplayer games, for instance, platforms, when the squads are playing together, you have only 3 channels. You have channel, which is direct communication with voice. You have your video connected with it. You have a channel of chat, a channel with a single channel in which you can communicate as well as in writing. And then the third channel is basically communication through data, what you see. And everything else is additional buzz around what's going on. So that's in a nutshell, how we see the change management in digital era. It's a very exciting time, and we have got very exciting insights with testing and trying this concept with various big organizations. And the beauty of it, and I'll close with that, is that this concept as well confirmed that, especially in immersive experience, because we have a lab where we do immersive experience of change management with using different game platforms to test it, is that this kind of approach, first time, brings 2 generations together. So digital natives and digital non-natives, in a sense of not to compete, but to collaborate. Not to say digital is only way forward, or to say non-digital is only way forward, but basically to merge the two and take the best of them. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very happy and keen to open the floor for any questions or comments.
Yeah, we've got some questions that are coming through already. Quite keen throughout your talk, and the one here is the first one is all about naturally trust, a current theme of what you've been sharing. Why do you think that now is the lowest level of trust compared to past years?
Well, I think today's digital world, where we are disconnected from each other like we are now, right? And when most of the people work from home or in a small teams, it's like having small castles or all around one kingdom. And for people who just fight for themselves, this is an ideal situation in which they can try to protect their knowledge on one side, and then use it hidden in a way through from the rest of their peers, for instance, in order to progress and move forward. Also, what people are trying to do, and my feeling is that's a big mistake, is to compete rather than to collaborate. So who has something which is very unique, they would like to keep it, and they don't want to collaborate. And then I have heard so many great ideas, and because of, especially in last 2 years, and because of trust to share it with those who can help, they were not able to go off the ground at all.
Yeah, interesting what you say that as well. Again, the more we are in our own little castles, own little bubbles. We are focused on us. We are almost taught to do that with this digital era that we're living in. So working out what's happening in those other castles, we don't know, and we kind of separate ourselves. So we're getting kind of not closer together, but further away, and naturally trust comes into that a lot as well. Let's move on to another question here. So the difference between generations in business today, why do you think they're so drastic? Why is there such a gap?
Because we have a new generation of managers who are emerging, and those are the managers from the latest generations, right? Now they are growing into that ranks. That's one side of the story, and you can see that in traditional organizations. And these people bring completely different culture. I look at our kids. I have kids. We have kids basically 11 and 13, and when they come to workforce, there will be completely other way of how things are done and what's motivating them. So we need to merge these two worlds. That's one aspect of the story. So now why it's more important, because these people are starting to manage people. And that's what changed. That's when your message, your change of culture, that's when it amplifies. And if you are not ready, then it hits you inside. The second thing is we have a lot of young companies now, especially with new technologies like blockchain, which quickly come to be big players, and who are, let's say, putting the new spice to the economy. These people build companies completely new way with the new cultures. They need the traditional companies to cross-collaborate. So now these guys grew enough that they are challenging the global market in a positive sense. So what we need is to make the understanding. What we need is to make a bridge in between, rather than try to say that one or another works better.
So what you're saying is looking at ways to really slowly, doesn't have to be quickly, but slowly over time, bring those two sides together in the right way. Let's move on. What do you think about reverse mentorship? What's your take on that?
Well, I'm thank you for that question. I'm a big believer in it, and in all my as well previous roles, I have been doing it for last almost 8 years. And I would say that the things which I learned from people who were just starting their careers are the things which I never learned in the business school. And once I started to appreciate the difference in how people see the world, and then taking the best of it in order to understand, especially how to work with that generation, it helped me a lot. So reverse mentorship can help everybody who is doing it open-heartedly to accept why things are different, and then act in a different way that, like the generations are asking from you, you can make success. If you're doing it just as a hygiene factor, then don't do it.
Next one, War for Talent is here. As we've heard over the last couple of days as well, again, candidate experience, companies looking for different ways and really attracting talent, and then the talent ourselves deciding have so much options, and there's so much noise out there to decide where you want to go. How does globalization affect it? So the war for talent is here. How does globalization affect it?
This is a very important question, and I think we won't be going out of the era of war for talent. I just think for those who would like to win, they need to build the organizations who can be employers of choice. So there's no way that we can change how people are doing things. There's only the way of how we can change our organizations and set up, especially our people departments, related to how we become employers of choice. Why people will select us, not because we have a brand name, not because we are iconic. Short term, yes, maybe, but long term, no. So what we also learned is that especially the pandemic situation and period brought people to look more internal, to look into themselves, to be more spiritual in a way. So what we see, especially working with the biggest companies in the world, that you have shift of talent, but not like before, that one pays a better salary or gives a better condition. People are changing professions. People are going to do art. People are starting their own small businesses, and they don't care about being part of a big organization anymore. So there is a shift in a mindset, not shift in a skill and a price anymore. So this is a new challenge we will be seeing more and more going forward, which again we can only tackle with being companies who have the purpose, being companies who create an interesting environment to work in, and then work on the things which matters.
Working on the things that matter, a great way to wrap up our session now this morning. Listen, Marko, it's been great talking to you and really hearing what you have to say in terms of change management in this changing, ever changing digital era. All I'm going to say now is, again, listeners, you'd like to know more. Excuse me. You'd like to know more, take this conversation forward with Marko, reach out to him over LinkedIn. And Marko, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for your time, because I know everybody's time is so valuable. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being part of it and making this event great as it is. And once again, congratulations to the HR Week team. Thank you all.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.